What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. Now, with this video, we are jumping into the death of Doctor Strange, the Blade one-shot. Now, if you haven't been keeping up with everything going on with the death of Doctor Strange, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It's gonna get you completely caught up on everything happening in this line. But through this line so far, what we have seen is everyone handling the death of the Sorcerer Supreme, with Doctor Strange no longer around. The spells that he used to protect this planet, they have collapsed. And we are seeing a threat of the Three Mothers. While this is the biggest threat, along with the child, all around the world, people are having to put out fires, even in the Vampire Nation. And so with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue of the death of Doctor Strange, we are picking up in Chernobyl, the new Vampire Nation, with Dracula being able to manipulate his way into the world, being recognized as a nation after the Krakoa and the mutants had done this. But it all came with one stipulation. That stipulation is that Blade is the vampire sheriff. And right now in the Vampire Nation, there is a nationwide party for the death of Doctor Strange. Once upon a time, Doctor Strange and Blade, they worked together to massacre the undead, to take out all of the vampires. And now with the death of Strange, they are rejoiced. One of their greatest enemies has been smited from this planet. And so while Blade mourns his friend, the laughter, the party, it grows more and more as the night goes on. And we have some of these young vampires, they come up and they start really taunting the Daywalker. With him being sheriff, he has to hold some kind of restraint. He cannot attack vampires without any provocation. But one of these young vampires, Dahlia, and she is not a fan of Dracula or of Blade. After hearing that Blade is going to be the new sheriff of Vampire Nation, this is something that she was highly opposed to, and she says that this even makes Dracula look very weak. And so while the Vampire Nation, it may have been formed, it may be a safe place for vampires to live, there are little factions growing inside the nation that would like to maybe dethrone Dracula from the head of this nation. Now, as she goes along with this speech, this is where we see good old Dracula come into the room, and he lets her know that he tolerates her rudeness only because she has not yet broke any of the laws in the land. And her and the other council members, they have their uses. But her friends, on the other hand, they are absolutely nobodies. Not council members, not anybody of any importance. Telling her more or less a threat, letting her know that if she keeps at it, her friends are gonna pay the consequences for her actions. And so with her storming off, Dracula and Blade, they go have a conversation. And more than anything, Blade is shocked that there is even a council in this place. Now Dracula lets him know that the council, it's more for show than anything else. It's making them feel like they have a voice. But the reality is, these guys don't even have like a voting right or anything like that. At the end of the day, what Dracula says goes. And he really keeps Dahlia around because she has a gift of reaching the younger generation of vampires. Dracula even goes on to try to say that he's sorry for the death of Doctor Strange. Now Blade tells him right off the bat, just shut your mouth. Like, I don't want to hear anything you have to say. Don't apologize, nothing. Because at the end of the day, if you were truly sorry, you wouldn't be having this giant festivity. You wouldn't have parties over the entire nation. You literally sit there dressed in a cape looking like Doctor Strange. But as they look out the window, it seems that the sheriff of Vampire Nation has to get to work, because somebody has come in and they are causing a ruckus, speaking some kind of unknown language. Blade jumps into action. With him coming down on them, he kicks these guys' butts, with him slicing his enemies to pieces. These guys are coming from another dimension, with Sorcerer Supreme now being dead. The barrier that protected this world, it is now fallen, and we are seeing invasions happen all across the world. and Chernobyl is no exception. But as they continue fighting on, they find one individual appearing to be a child. Not sure what is going on here, not sure who this is. Blade ensures that no harm will come to this child, with Dracula making his appearance and letting everyone know that this person, this child, is going to be held. They're going to figure out what language it is speaking and try to figure out what exactly is happening here. With Dracula making his exit, he tells Blade one final thing, that he is going to need to dress a little bit snazzy and need his presence tomorrow. Need his presence at the council meeting. Now, Blade is just only a guest in this situation, but he wants Blade present to watch what is about to happen. And so we start to see some vampire politics. And of course, Dahlia is the first one to say anything, because now that Doctor Strange is dead, what she wants to do is a full-on assault against the Avengers. Now, of course, Dracula has no intention of going to war with anybody right now, with the world around them in turmoil, all because of the death of Doctor Strange. They are one of few nations that can find solace in these times. And so right now, he has no rush to do anything. Not only that, it appears that with his death, it has brought something new to their doorstep. And so a war with the Avengers is something they just cannot do right now. And so this is where they bring in that kid, the one that came from the other dimension, being able to kind of decipher his language. The language is amplified by some kind of level of psychic ability. This is how they find a way to speak and comprehend everything that he has been saying. And what he shows us is a story of how he arrived here in Chernobyl. A story of chaos in a city behind a veil in a world they cannot see. Pirates and bandits alike, they set upon this child and his parents, with his parents not being able to make it out alive. A rift had opened up. This portal opening up, the pirates and the child, they all fall through it. Excited for new lands, excited for new conquest, they believed that this was going to be their golden ticket. That is, until they met Blade. Now, every vampire in the room, they start making a mockery of this. Start making fun of the child, making light of the situation, and this absolutely makes Blade freaking irate, letting everyone know that this is done with, this is over with. That if they want to put a kid on trial, that they don't need to do it with such an audience. Saying that this needs to stop and it needs to stop now. With the guards moving in towards him, he lets Dracula know that he will take out everyone in this room if he has to. Dracula not moving an inch, not even blinking. This is where we see Dahlia being tired of Blade talking, tired of hearing anything he has to say. She goes in with a dagger, and her and Blade begin to cross swords, with Dahlia screaming at him, saying that he is not worthy to be here, that she is going to take him off this place. And in the middle of this fight, neither Blade nor Dahlia sense the presence of Dracula sneaking in through the shadows, grabbing Dahlia by the throat and telling her this is not how she treats Dracula's guests, taking both the child and Dahlia down to the dungeons. Now, Blade says that, her actions were severely out of line, but Dracula has to ask, what about your actions, Blade? Now, as the two are being escorted down to the dungeons, we see that this child isn't really just some innocent kid after all. We see a transformation happen. With this transformation, the two guards that were taking them to their cell, something happens to them. Something psychic. Whatever it is, it makes their brains feel like they are freaking on acid, completely immobilizing them, understanding that Dahlia might be able to help him out. The child and Dahlia, they throw the two guards into the prison cell, and they make their escape. Now, it doesn't take long for Blade and Dracula to hear the news of this escape. As they go down to the prison cells, they try to figure out what happened here. Now, Blade immediately thinks that Dahlia is out there to try to hurt the kid. Blade never considered that the kid is actually part of the danger. Because one thing that Dracula had noticed that Blade did not pick up on is that that kid is a psychic vampire. Dracula has suspected the moment he saw him. He's seen many such creatures throughout his time, and the way that they played at their heartstrings. This is why Blade acted in such a emotional way during that whole festivities. During their council meeting, when he stood up for the child was using his emotions against him, creating a situation that Blade would want to see. But Dracula had other plans. He had really invited Blade here to make Dahlia come out and do this attack. In doing this attack, it gives Dracula just cause in imprisoning her, taking out some kind of rebellion that might have been building up against him. And so, for a lack of better words, Blade has been played by Dracula. He was used and dangled as bait. But now, with Dahlia and the child on the run, with them picking up a trail, it is time for Blade to go do what he does best. It is time for him to go hunting. But out there on the streets in Vampire Nation, we have vampires going crazy. For the first time in Vampire Nation, emotions, they flow like blood, filling in the streets. And through all of this craziness, we have Blade. He is slicing, he is dicing, he is cutting his way through vampires. Those that stand against him, they meet death by his blade. And in the midst of this fight, this is where we see Dahlia come out and grab Blade by the throat, with her hoping that the child is able to manipulate his emotions to put his rage so far ahead, so high, that he cannot think straight. At the end of the day, Blade laughs this off because he doesn't need some child to manipulate his hate. His hate exists, and it has existed long before this Dahlia became a vampire 100 years ago. But with Dahlia consumed with rage herself, with her hell-bent on taking out Blade, she doesn't feel from the shadows the monster that is hiding there. The red-eyed demon Dracula himself. Creeping in the shadows, he grabs Dahlia and disappears. This is exactly what he has been wanting. This is his opportunity to cut off the head of the snake. And so with this part of the battle being done, it is not complete yet. We still have the child. And as Blade turns around, we see the child appearing to transform into some kind of giant, crazy looking being, grabbing him and slamming him against the wall. We see the two of them dueling this out. And as this fight continues on, as Blade looks like he is getting his butt freaking kicked, he gets thrown into a wooden lamppost. Taking this opportunity, with it being broken and splintered, he grabs it and he shoves it through the giant psychic monster. The psychic vampire being susceptible to wooden stakes. And this fight has actually been a little bit enjoyable for Blade because he hasn't fought this long in such a long time. He has fought so long that the sun is rising up. But with that lamppost impaled inside of the child, this fight is over. And with the sun rising, with Dracula over in the shadows, Blade can't help but just be absolutely livid that he got used, that he got played. He is just a piece on the chessboard and Dracula is the player. But not much time passes, and the Vampire Nation, they are back to partying. They are back to having fun. This is a whole celebration, and they are not going to let anything stop them from having a party. Now, as Blade sits here and he just does his normal brooding, sitting in the corner self, one of these vampires comes up and says that they know what he did to Dahlia. They know what he did to the others, and that he is going to pay for it. With this kid taking a swing at Blade, Blade puts him on the ground, takes a stake, and he drives it right through the chest. With Dracula watching all of this transpire, Dracula says absolutely nothing as this vampire turns into dust. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. You know, it was a while back that Blade became the sheriff of the Vampire Nation. They had a lot of Blade stories here and there, but none of them have really focused too much on what is going on in the Vampire Nation, what's happening in Chernobyl, and how it is going for Blade as a sheriff of all of this. And while this isn't so much worrying about the death of Doctor Strange, though it definitely has its play here, this is more what is going on with Blade currently, what is going on with Dracula, how all of this is intermingling together, how it is working as one. And so far it seems to be playing well. Dracula is using Blade as more of a political pawn than anything else. That if he has to be stuck with the Daywalker, he is going to use him to the full strength in his ability. And we're seeing a prime example of him really just flushing out the enemies of Dracula, being able to bring them out. And I really do hope that we get some more story on this. I would really like to see this story continue on and go to better and bigger places. You know, ever since the first introduction of Blade being sheriff, I have been 100% down for this story, because it's definitely something out of the element. It's something that Blade has never really had to do. He has always just been a vampire killer, but now he is having to hold some restraint. He is not allowed to just have open season on all vampires, but at the same time, the vampires give him plenty of opportunity to use his skills. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have not yet, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content we have coming out, and until the next breakdown.